Hello, everybody.
Hi, Ledi.
Hi, everybody. Blerina, how are you?
I'm Shumir Falemderit. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. I am the surprise of the day. I'm also an Albanian import from Silicon Valley. My name is Ledi Imeraj. I am currently the Director General of the Agency of Innovation and Excellence at the Albanian government. And I'm very excited to be here today. How's it? Thank you. Hi. And because I have a saying, I left my tennis shoes in San Francisco and I brought my heart back to Albania.
Woo!
And I've gone to Silicon Valley, the same as these two wonderful ladies here. We've been working in the same environments, similar environments. And I'm very glad to see them back to Albania. I came back almost 2 years ago to contribute back to Albania with all the great experience of 20 plus years in America and Silicon Valley. What do I bring to the table? I am a product development geek turned salesperson, turned VP of sales, turned go-to-market strategies. And I bring the experience from startups to large enterprise and developing products and scaling products that fit the enterprise market, especially, which you touched on. And I think it's a great opportunity to be here. So I'd love to have this panel and talk a little bit about some of the questions that might have come up from the audience. How many of you target the enterprise market today? So we know a little bit about the audience. How about, okay. How many of you target the B2C market, so consumer market? Okay, great. Let's talk a little bit about, at the Agency of Innovation and Excellence, we started like a startup. It started a year ago, 2 years ago actually. And we are running with all of those principles that you actually talked about in both your speeches. So my first question for you is, you've both led through hypergrowth, but with scarcity. And I've noticed that in Albania, we have similar conditions. And the first questions that I hear is, we don't have enough funding. And that means that there is a scarcity, which I don't believe that there's not enough funding still. I think it's possible to find the funding. But how can you create environments and how can you innovate when you have this environment when there is scarcity?
Yeah. I can start. So I was able to become chief of staff for developer relations, which is a 3,000-person organization at Google. And I thought this would be like the great opportunity that I'd have resources and I'd have money and would be working with startups. And I started in January of 2020. Who knows what happened in 2020? COVID hit. Okay, yes. So all of a sudden, the company had no idea what to do. 3,000 plus people. Do we work remotely? What are we supposed to do? So literally the first 3 months as a chief of staff, I got told, you need to figure out a way to cut 40% of operating expenses. We have no idea how this thing is, how long it's going to go, what does it look like, and come back to us. You've got 2 days to figure this out. So the answer to the question was going back to the leadership team, and it was unprecedented. They had no idea on how do you cut not just 10 or 20, but over 40% of operating expenses. And we came back to the basics. We said, what are the values that unite us? What do we prioritize? And at the time, things have changed, but at the time it was, we don't want to lay any people off. So how do you cut expenses if you're not laying people off? So then we got to the second level of, then we have to cut some projects. And we all got together and we said the project that matters the most is figuring out this contact tracing, which allowed people to figure out if they were next to someone that had COVID, then the phone would start doing communication that would say, hey, stay more at home. So the idea is that even at companies such as Google that have been used in lots of resources, COVID hits and it hits all of us. And coming back to the basics of what do we prioritize, what do we deprioritize, and how do we as leaders and employees, we recognize we can't do everything. And that's what we focus. So that was one way.
That's wonderful.
I love that. Yeah, that's super cool. Along those lines, I want to talk about something that I see across Google that is transferable to the startups as well, or maybe vice versa. What startups are doing really well that Google does as well, which is that experimentation mindset. You have probably heard about this. Google allowed for 10% of our time to be spent experimenting. So working on a passion project, working on something that really mattered to us. And in this capacity, you also get to wear a lot of hats. That this has a lot of similarities with startup culture as well, because going back to those resources that you were talking about and being resource constrained, you are resource constrained at a startup in Albania, in Silicon Valley, everywhere. That's the DNA of a startup. But what they do really well is that they allow for that experimentation, and they give you the psychological safety to be able to do things, to get the learnings, and to iterate. It is critical when we are getting these learnings to also move very fast. Some companies have the tendency to kind of stick it out with one hypothesis. Oh, we haven't proved it yet. Chances are you're going to prove that hypothesis really quickly when you listen to your customers and you focus on what they are doing. So culture of experimentation, wearing a lot of hats, making decisions fast, and then having no egos. It's very possible that the CEO was wrong. It's very possible that the C-level executives were wrong with the hypothesis that they made. And this is, again, what some startups that do it well do, is to call that out. Hey, we actually failed at that. So let's go back to the drawing board and keep learning. Is this helpful at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I can bring an example from the Agency of Innovation Excellence. Two of the things that I found to be the difference going from the corporate America and coming and working for the Albanian government was, one is the identification of the expertise and talent, especially since I didn't have a network of people yet at that time. And also there wasn't as much desire for people to come and work for the government. So that was one of the restrictions. And then the second one is you have to make sure that you have to go according to the laws in everything that you do and how you spend the government money. And coming from a past-based environment like the Silicon Valley, which is powered by private funds, it's a big difference. And the biggest question is, how do you innovate when you have these restrictions? And you just have to be very, very persistent. And the term of, the concept of pivoting and finding the right ways to address the challenges that you have in delivering the products. And the second thing that I learned was that knowledge transfer from a founder to the staff. Like if you really transfer your knowledge, then you empower the staff to help you to do the job better. One of the other things that I noticed since we're making the bridge, I've been here for 2 years making the bridge between Silicon Valley and those tides to Albania, is the concept of innovation starts with a mindset. And especially, we've been in panels regarding how AI especially is changing the landscape of marketing. So what advice do you have, and what do you notice in these tides of change, especially for, and how can companies and individuals be innovative when technology is changing so quickly?
Yeah. Would you like me to take this first?
You can start.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, it was hopefully a big part of my presentation today, and I have drank the Kool-Aid, which is a very American saying, but it means that I am practicing what I was preaching today. I am using as many AI tools as I can, not only because it's the call to action that I'm seeing everywhere across startups all the way to larger enterprises, but also because they have made me that much more efficient. I am a one-person team, despite all of these people on LinkedIn reaching out, telling me about all the colleagues that I have at Tideborn Capital. It's just me. I'm one person. But AI has made me very efficient, and it has helped tremendously. It's also about being able to understand how to use it, understand when it is hallucinating. The pizza example is an extreme one, but there are a lot of cases of hallucination of AI. I tested the 3,000 statistic that it gave me across multiple models. And that is the important piece. I think not being afraid to experiment, to use it, understanding when it is hallucinating and really questioning it and testing it out. And then also being able to understand of the 3,000 tools that I was talking about, which by the way is a lot of tools, not all of them are great, understanding what can be used for which purposes. I really like Claude with how creative it is with its writing. Business writing, it tends to do a bit less of a good job with. So I am really exhilarated. I'm going to stop using excited. I think I've said it 27 times today, but I get super leaned in on the fact that we are at that very cusp of this revolution. I light up when I think about the AI revolution. I don't think the world where they will take over is near. I know that there are quite a few of those kind of thought leaders that are talking about sentient AI. We're not there by any means. But Yoad was talking about the power of imagination. And I think when we take that power and infuse it into the efficiency builder, the outperformer that AI can build, I think truly, and I believe this, Albania can lead the way. We are an extremely smart population. We are so tech savvy, and kind of leaning into that AI wave, I think will really serve us well.
Yeah.
What I wanted to share is that I started working with AI about 2 years ago, since I heard from Sundar talking about AI while I was at I/O 2021. And in the 2 years that I've been working, I've been treating it as my chief of staff. I use primarily ChatGPT, but when I want something more poetic, then I go to Claude, and when I want to build a business plan, I go to Gemini, and when I'm kind of irritated, then I go to Claude and I say, this is what Gemini told me, what do you have to say? So a little bit of like, teach Farmandon. The one thing that I would share is that I would really encourage each of you not to be afraid to ask it, what do you think are my blind spots? And that's literally what I asked ChatGPT. I have been building my business, again, like Blerina, just me, leaving a multi-hundreds, thousands of dollars compensation from Google, and literally going into very little, whatever I make is whatever I make. So ChatGPT has been like my chief of staff. And I've been coming up with all these ideas, but some are playing out, some are not playing out. So 2 years into talking to it, I said, Chat, can you please tell me what are my blind spots? And it literally skewered me, but in a very kind way. It said, as an executive, you like to do a lot of things. You lack focus. You go on what excites you, not on where the money is. If you want to prioritize the money, you need to be more disciplined. It was exactly right on all those 3 areas. So I would encourage you, if you've been working with it for a while, ask it. What do you think I'm missing? What are my blind spots? And beyond AI, what I would encourage each of you in the room is to be okay to say, I don't know. And taking my own advice, I've got a little place that I stay in Samil. I've got someone that's helping me there, and they were trying to teach me about Albania. And they said, hey, you've left since 1997. There's lots of things that have changed. And I kept saying, edi edi, popo edi edi, popo edi edi. And then I caught myself. And I said, you know what, Clyde? Në fakt, nuk e di. I don't know. Dhe ke shumë të drejtë. Kam ikur që në 97-ën, shumë gjërat kanë ndryshuar, and it was so freaking refreshing. We stopped fighting with each other, with him being like, you don't know what's changed, and me being like, you don't tell me what to do. And I said, I don't know. What do I not know? And that moment of conversation opened both of us to recognize, yes, things have changed and what to do differently. So whether you're using AI or each other or networking or partners, just take a moment to be okay and say, hey, në fakt nuk e di, dhe nëse mund të më ndihmosh, I'd appreciate it.
Those are very, very important lessons. It corresponds with my experience when I came back. It was a little bit surprising that at the level that I was at, for my team and for the audience to hear that the word I don't know. Because I would say that very, very easily. I would talk to the budget lady and I would say, talk to me like I'm a 4-year-old person because I don't understand budget in the government. And to them, it was very surprising. But that's how we started to build the culture of collaboration, the culture of innovation, because to innovate, you have to be curious, and to be curious, you need to feel safe. And when they start to hear the general director in a government say, I don't know, then they had the permission to actually come and say, I don't know, can you help me? And the second thing was that I noticed here in Albania is to say, it is possible. It is possible to actually accomplish things. I think there is still a little bit of that mindset that our parents, being so careful and coming from a background of scarcity, they always are careful in the sense of, well, don't stretch your feet too far, because you either will get hurt or you're not going to have enough funding to do it. And now the possibilities are endless. Those gates are fully open in Albania, where anything you want to achieve, you can achieve. And ChatGPT helped me become a great leader, because I would ask all questions about how the government works and how leaders in the government think and focus on what initiatives, so that I could go prepared in meetings. And I agree with you. I think Albania has tremendous opportunity in investments and in creating these pilots so that they can be scaled in the world, because we are very resilient, we're very curious, and I think if we continue to adopt this mentality of how do I do this, instead of saying it cannot be done, is I'm going to do this, and it's going to be possible to do it, and I'll find the way. I think we can actually become a North Star in regards to pilots, in regards to building technology that maybe even Silicon Valley wasn't able to build. And I think we have something that you mentioned, and I'll re-mention again. We have, and even as Western Balkans, I would say, we have empathy. And if we build products with empathy, and if we continue to preserve the empathy and that genuine connection that we have over coffee, I think we can really accomplish some amazing things in regards to innovation.
Absolutely.
Okay. They're telling us that we have to go, and a big applause to you for participating. Thank you so much, Jonika. Thanks to Blerina. Thank you for coming and joining us today.